Okay, you asked for some more tactics, specifically Imperial Guard, so that is what I'm going to be working on tonight. This one is Leman Russ tactics. Um, Generally, the tactics involved in using a Leman Russ is not particularly challenging, but which ones to pick and the configurations of them is probably the part that's a bit more confusing or a bit more um, involved. So I'm going to be going over what I typically use and what I typically would never use. Um, to start off with, you guys have all seen these. This one is my Leman Russ Demolisher that I converted many, many years ago, so it looks kind of like crap. But that's my Demolisher. If you notice, it's got plasma cannons and a las cannon. If I don't use my Demolisher, I'll typically use my Executioner, which I have not finished the turret yet on. The gun's a bit big. It's actually quite a bit big, but I made it all from green stuff before I saw the actual model, so I guess get over it. The reason I take one of these two and not both is because, well, let's face it, this thing here can lay out 5 plasma cannon shots every turn on top of the las cannon shot. So if I'm doing the 5 plasma cannon shots, I'm most likely going after Space Marines. I'm not going after vehicles. I'm pretty much just going after things with armor of 3+, even if they're in cover. They're not going to get as good of a save because of the plasma cannons. So either I'm doing this to try to just nuke a huge area with plasma cannon shots, or I'm doing this to nuke an area with 2 plasma cannons and a demolisher cannon. A lot of times, just because of points, I opt towards the demolisher. It's cheaper. And the Strength 10 ordnance comes in handy a lot of times. The big advantage it has over the Executioner is that it can instant kill models that are toughness 5. And against vehicles, even against a monolith, you get 2d6 and choose the highest, plus the strength of 10. So you have 2d6 to roll for plus to hit a monolith. So that's really one of the reasons why I choose the Demolisher so often. Its loadout, plasma cannon. If I'm shooting a big blast at things that require me to have armor piercing 2, then there's no reason in the world that I should give it heavy bolters. I want plasma cannon so that the secondary weapons can shoot and kill the same things easily. Las cannon, a very good weapon for this loadout, because if I'm shooting at vehicles with the ordnance, the las cannon can still take on heavy vehicles. If I'm shooting at infantry with 3+ armor, or 2+ armor, the las cannons can still take care of them too. So that's the loadout I always give this one. Normal Leman Russ. Normal Leman Russ is the only one that you see in basically all of my lists. Standard loadout, I do one of 2 things. Either I give it the heavy bolter sponsons and the las cannon hull, or I give it the heavy bolter sponsons and the heavy bolter hull. It all depends on what army I'm going up against. If it's all comers, I don't know who I'm fighting, I'm going to take the las cannon, just for the extra anti-armor. This loadout is, again, with the ordnance, it's pretty good at killing vehicles. You do get the 2d6 plus the strength. Not heavy vehicles, but light vehicles, armor 12, it'll be good against. So I've got the las cannon so that if I miss with this, it's not necessarily a complete bust. And the heavy bolters, because I typically use my Leman Russ only against infantry unless I have to shoot it at something else. If there's no infantry left that's worth shooting at, or there's a vehicle that's very important to take out, then I'll shoot it at the vehicle. So I typically load out this all for just taking out infantry, and oftentimes I'll give it the heavy stubber. So either 3 heavy bolters, heavy stubber, or 2 heavy bolters, heavy stubber, and the las cannon, just in case. This one here, the Vanquisher that I made also. This one is amazing at taking out vehicles. The only problem is it only gets 1 shot, and let's face it, I always fail it. Always give it the las cannon, just for backup. So it's got this huge cannon here, 72 inches, strength 8, AP 2, 2d6 for armor pen. So, you know what, against like a Land Raider with 2 dice, you need to roll a 6 to glance it. So I really like that. And I typically give this Pask as well, so that it makes him ballistic skill 3 instead of ballistic skill, or it makes him ballistic skill 4 instead of 3. It helps dramatically, and it adds +1, I think, to my armor pen rolls or something like that. So I would only need a 5 with 2 dice against a Land Raider. And against monsters creatures, it allows me to reroll to wound. So if in a pinch, it can help take out a Carnifex or something. Right now I've got these turrets taken off right here. I'm going to be making these multi-melta turrets and magnetizing them. If you know an army you're up against, or you know the group of players you play against that's going to be in a tournament or something, typically use tons of vehicles, like Land Raiders and that. I have in the past given this vehicle Pask, the las cannon, and 2 multi-melta sponsons. It's only 30 extra points, and it basically means that no matter what you shoot at with this every turn, it's going to die. If you have 4 completely anti-armor weapons, shooting at ballistic skill 4, +1 on the table, or on the +1 on the chart, or on the armor pen roll, there's really no way that anything's going to survive, especially not with the multi-meltas getting the 2d6 and AP1. So, this is really, in my opinion, this is the absolute best anti-vehicle, anti-armor vehicle in the entire game. And is really a good buy. It usually comes in around, I think, 260, 265 points after you add the las cannon, the multi-meltas, and Pask. So, what I typically will run, and in any game 1,000 points or over, I always run 3 Leman Russ, and only 3 Leman Russ. I found that the squads just really don't work well. It's too much. Typically, it's too much fire for one squad. Anything that 1 Leman Russ can shoot at, 2 Leman Russ is going to be overkill for. So, I always run 1 normal Leman Russ. As my secondary one, it's always either the Demolisher or the Executioner. Usually the Demolisher. For the last one, the last one's really the hardest one for me to choose. If I know I'm going up against lots of anti-armor, I'll take this, the Vanquisher. If I'm not going up against anti-armor, I'm not going up against a lot of armor, then for right now I've been proxying it for usually, I think it's the Eradicator with the Nova Cannon. If you know your enemy, if you're fighting orcs, or you're fighting Tyranids or Tau, something that's got some good infantry in cover, the Eradicator is a beast. I put a heavy flamer on the front of it in the last video, if you watched the last battle report, and I toasted like 14 Storm Boys in one turn with that tank, with no sponsons. So, AP4 ignoring cover is pretty fantastic, and yeah, it's really good against orcs, especially against bikers, because the bikers usually have that 4+ cover save. So, definitely for this one, consider, for the third vehicle, consider either the Vanquisher or the Eradicator. Or if none of those two are really good options for what you know you're fighting, I would always just opt towards the normal Leman Russ, because the normal Leman Russ is a really solid tank. Things to worry about in the new rules are the fact that assaults now hit your rear armor. That hurts you pretty bad. Normal Leman Russes, rear armor 10. Space Marines will rip you apart. At the very least, stop you from shooting, so you want to stay away from them. Normal Space Marines now have crack grenades, so even your rear armor 11 isn't safe. So you got to keep something nearby to assault and distract the Space Marines with that kind of opponent. The two I would never ever take in the new codex is the Punisher. It shoots 20 shots. It's an amazing vehicle. It can pretty much take out a whole squad of just about anything in one turn. Just give it Pask and heavy bolters, and there's a heavy stubber and everything. I just honestly think it's cheap. Anything that can get 9 heavy bolter shots, 20 shots from the cannon and 3 shots from a heavy stubber every turn at ballistic skill 4 to me is just cheap. So I never ever use pass or use the Punisher just because I think it's cheap. I think it's overpowered. The other one I would never ever use is the Exterminator. If you're going to buy an Exterminator, it's somewhere around 150 points. For that same exact cost, you can get 2 Hydras, which would literally be twice the firepower with the basically autocannons. Same number of shots, same strength, same armor piercing. The only difference is the Hydras actually have a special rule that helps them against shooting like skimmers. And the Hydras ones also shoot farther. So twice the firepower, better firepower. And you'd have twice the heavy bolters as well for the same exact point cost. So it's really, in my opinion, is stupid to get the Exterminator. So that's basically my wrap up on the Leman Russes. And I'll see you in the next Tactica video.